Okay, so no further questions. Let's look at the second drop down. So in the second drop down, you can see here we have a divider. You see that there is a fourth item, but it is not linked with the initial drop down menu container. So back here again, drop down menu show, we show the button, and then we have a drop down menu show. We can see here we have a item 1 to 3. Then you see in the last part here there is a drop down divider, so it's another class that can be used in drop down. So usually divider is people will put like for a different category, or is it a text. And here you can see that it writes here another link. So if it's not the link that the website wants to give you, we can put another link, for example, to another link to another website rather than the website itself. So it's just basically another section of the drop down menu. So let's look at the third one. So the third one is the drop down header class is used to add headers on drop down menu. So we have headers here. So as usual, you have to define the button, and then let's look at the menu here. So as usual, we put drop down menu show as the class, and the X placement we put bottom start, and the styling, and then the version is to transform. But you can look here, it's not much really. You just put in the h5. So remember, h has from 1 to 5 to change the size of the text of the header, and then you just put here h5. But remember, you have to put in the class, and then later on everything else is just the same. Right? Very straightforward. Let's look at the fourth one. This kind of header is referring to disable. Okay. So a disable button shows that it is a disable, so that you are not allowed to click on it. And the function of this is usually when a website wants to block a certain path to another web page, they put that link disable, so that when the page is ready, they just activate it, and then the link functions as normal. So how to use active and disable is straightforward. In the class here, you just put disable, so that that link itself will not be able to be clicked on. Active is referring to an active ready page, not link, but a is marked as active. So you can see in the active box there is already highlighted in blue. So it shows that this is the current active page or link and so on. Usually you can see this active class in other websites when you're in home, or when you're in other sections of the page, it will highlight that this is the active area. So let's look at 5A and B. So we start with A. So add the drop right class next to the drop down menu to right align the drop down. Note that the caret and arrows is added automatically, so you don't need to put in the arrows referring to the arrows in the button. So here is on the right, you can see that here we put drop down and drop right. So you just add in the drop right class and then it will drop on the right side. Same as here on the left, you just put in container drop left, float right, show. Okay, float right. So float right here in the class is referring to the placement of the button. So here you can see in the container, float right is floating on the furthest right of the container. So if you want to put anything on your furthest right of the screen, you put float right, especially for button or search bar and so on. Let's add drop down 6. So drop down 6 is as a drop down menu right class to the drop down menu to align with the drop down menus. For example, here, so here you can see that in a white drop down, only on the right side section of the button is the drop down menu. So how we do it is here. As usual, we create a container, the button, and this is the part. So in drop down menu, we drop down menu right. We see the highlight word here in the class drop down menu right, and then we put the style for position absolute so that it is placed right underneath the button, and when you put the drop down menu right, it's only on the right side of the button that it is dropped. So another one is drop up. So drop up, it says a word here, drop up show rather than drop down. That's the only difference. So drop down menu text class is used to add plain text to a drop down or use on links for default ink styling. Yeah, so as usual, we put A as link and then we use span. Span drop down my item text, then you write whatever text you want. So it's not an A. Remember, A is usually used for links. Span is usually used for text. So in your drop down menu or in your nav bar or on your form, we use if you just want a styling text rather than a functioning text, we use span. So now we have a nesting button group. So nesting is referring to a cluster or a merge. So you can see that here all in this one whole container there are three buttons, but only one button has a drop down menu. Okay, so the first button and the second button we define it as a button, no problem. And then we have to create another button. It's called button group show. So it's a group referring to the rather than a normal button, it is within a group, a button in a group. And then we put the button same down, drop down toggle, and then we put in the other toggle as drop down. Then we put another container where you have the drop down menu shown, and everything else is just the same as the regular drop down menu. So another one is drop down menu split. So the only difference is that we have another button within a button. So here you can see that primary is a button, okay, and then we add another button next to it, and that button has a class of a drop down toggle and drop down toggle split. This two class term is needed when you want to apply this kind of drop down. And then you can see, as usual, every drop down menu you show what kind of drop down menu it is. So basically this is the basic default setting of a drop down menu. So the last one is a vertical button group. Just like the nesting button groups, you have to apply this is the vertical standing. So you put here, you can see the only difference is that in this container we put btn group vertical. You can use this on especially this kind of buttons are used on the column of the side column of the page. And like I say, the only difference is you put in the class button group vertical. Everything else is just the same like nesting. All right. So far, can everybody understand? Bootstrap. No, you just put in a link. You just create a link. I'll show you again here. So here are the links. Bootstrap is usually directly to the internet. But if you're using a local, if you downloaded a template Bootstrap, then it's the same. You put a link, but it's on a separate files. They will give you separate files for CSS, separate files for Java, and so on. You don't need to download anything because some your internet browser already supports Bootstrap 4. Okay, so everybody understand about drop-down menus? Okay, so everyone, if you go to the next slide, there is another file that is called under navbar, right? So when you download the file, you can see that navbar, we have already done it during I taught you through in WordPress on how to do in your resume and so on. But remember that navbar class has so many kinds available and different styles to use for depending on your style of creativity. So the example I'm showing on your screen right now is called a sticky navbar. So a sticky navigation bar fixes the top of the page when you scroll past it. So when I scroll above it, it sticks here. And here you can see that the top part it remains the same. So you can usually on the sticky navbar people use like on the big screen, on the big part of it, you put an image. An image like a welcoming poster or a big logo for the company. And then when they scroll past down, the image will pass, but the navbar remains at the top. Yeah, so navbar has many applications, depends on your creativity on how you want to design it. If you want to use the traditional navbar, we can use the same method that we used in your resume exercise last time. Or there are other stuff like you put the navbar on the bottom. But this navbar, you can see that here it it changes size, but some navbar it is able to has the responsive features where all the links will become a toggle button drop down menu. Right, so here you can see, let me show you the layout. Remember that here you can see here in the sticky navbar section on top, we use container fluid, we have a text and everything. Then we use the navbar class. You can see that, remember UL unlisted list, unordered list, I'm sorry, unordered list. And then we have the list of each item, and then the third list we have a search bar. Okay. Here usually the search bar, you can put it on the right using float, no problem. I forgot to add on, but never mind. So like last time, remember when I told you about the drop down button, when you put float right, the item on the container or the list or whatever object that is on the screen will move to the furthest right of the screen. Okay, so navbar is very straightforward. In case you guys already learned it. Okay, so next part on the slide is form. So form, we already did last time. We did for the first exercise we did in our session. We create a normal form, but another requirement is validation. So validation is usually on any page or any social media or any page that requires you to log in. You can see that when you don't put in your username or you don't put in your password, if you don't click on the button on the agreement, it will not move you to the next page. You can see here in the form section, here in the username we put input as usual, and then we just need to put in required. That's about it. But before that, you can put this require on each input tag as normal, but you can see that in the class form here, you can see you put needs validation. So when you put needs validation, it needs the entire form needs validation. So not only you need to one by one, you still need to put required, but the function of it is different. So example, if I put submit here, you can see that you change the class, need validation was validated. And then you can see that it is no validate. So it's not validated. So in this function here, you have to fill in whatever blanks, whatever like here, here, and then agree. You can see everything changes to valid. So when you submit, you submit to the next page as the code you written, the link that you gave to the submit button. So everything else is the same. You just put in required at the end, Yeah, you can see the password is required, the agreement is also required, and so on. Is there any questions? Okay, so if no questions, then we move on to our last part. And after that, I want you guys to do yourself. So next one, in the next slide, I'll also give you the file right next to the octopus there. So it's called flex. So what is flex? So flex is to control the layout of the Bootstrap components. It's different than grid. Grid is basically you are placing containers here and there. But flex enables the coder to move the items, the components inside the container around. So the one of the basic functions is flexbox, the flexbox system, which is to handle the layout. And it's easier to design flexible responsive layout structure without using float or positioning. So let's look back on the screen here on the Chrome. We can see flex. So to create a flexbox container and transform direct children into flex items. Okay, so here you see the container here. We put class dflex, that's the class, and then p3. Remember p3 is for padding. bg is referring to background color. So the background is secondary, and then text is white, simple. And then each item we put. Remember P is referring to padding, so padding 2 is as well as for the placement of the text. And this is the basic use of Flexbox. So Flexbox is basically on, like I said, is the component inside a container. You use to rather than using float or positioning all the items manually, Flex will help you do it automatically. So now we have inline flex. So inline flex here, you can see that is another class term. To create inline, you can see that it is within the number of items it is. So it's not stretched out, it is within the 3 items. So it looks neat. Okay, so next is horizontal direction. So use flex row to make flex item appear side by side. So here you can see here we use the flex and then flex row, and then if we put the color, so now it doesn't look like it doesn't look too stocky, so it looks in line with the bar. And then if you want to place it on the opposite side, you just put in reverse. So reverse will put the right line to direction, but the item will place 1 2 3 on as shown on the screen. So next we have vertical. So you can see here it is stacked. So flex column to display the flex items vertically on top of each other. Other one is same thing as the reverse. So here we can see put flex column and b3, and then you put the items. So now it is all stacked rather than in a row format. And then you put in the reverse. It's the same thing as the horizontal direction. It put on the reverse order. Next is justify. You can see that using justify content class to change the alignment of flex items. So choose from start, default, and center, between, or around. So basically we justify content start. So from start here is just like the basic flex. Here we put justify content and it starts from the end, but it's not the same as reverse because the item you can see is not in the reverse form. So 1 2 3 rather than 3 2 1. Next is we put center, so everything is in the center as per se. Another one is between, so that the middle item will be in between the start and the end. And here around, make sure that all the items are around inside the box rather than in the both ends. So it does not end, it does not start. You can see on the screen, this is the two difference between and around. So fill in and equal. Like it says that either you want to make the entire items equal, you put the flex, and then you put here the difference in the class is flex fill. So if you put 3 items or 4 items, it will fill in the entire box or container. And then you can see flex fill. You don't see without flex fill, it just go back to normal. And the remaining gray area will not be filled but will be shown. So there's grow. So grow, you can see here in the flex grow one, it will use the remaining space of the container. Right, very straightforward as well. So now we have order. So order, to change the visual order to specific flex items. So you can see that here we put class flex item 1 2 and 3, but we put order 3 2 1. So this is how it plays. So the flex item 3 is order 1 as shown on the screen. So auto merges is also another class. You can see here auto, you can see mr auto margin, so it will, you see it will add auto margin to flex items with mr auto to push items to the right, or by using ml auto to push item to the left. Right, so if let's say you have one item you want to be singular in one side, you can use this auto margin on the left or the right side. Okay, that is all for flex. Yeah, there are other methods of using flex. This one I won't show you the code, but I'll show you the concept. So use wrapping. So control how flex item wrap in a flex content with flex now wrap as default. So you see on the first screen here, flex wrap. You can see all the items are placed one by one. But you can see that some items are not placed fully. So this is all flex wrap. But you put no wrap, the item will be listed on. Okay. In your code editor, you can see in your setting called wrap, toggle wrap, or wrap view, or word wrap. It's referring to that whatever is ending at the end of the container here, it will just move on to the next line. So it will not force the item to be squished to the end of the screen. That is what basically wrap is. So here is another align content. You can see that here we can align from the start, align from the end, or align in the center, or we align all around. Or you can say align content stretch, it will stretch out the item to fill in the height of the container. Another align item you can see here from start and center, baseline, and then stretch. Okay, so self is another different one. You can see that here the item in the middle is placed differently. Top, bottom, middle, and or you can use stretch for everything. Alright. Alright, so if you can download all the slides in the page there. Okay, so if you look at the last page of the slide, on the last slide, you can see that there is a task for you. So you're wondering how should I go about this? So basically, I want you to do like this. You can see that here we're using this nav bar here. You can adjust it to sticky bar as well if you want. You can see on the header here. You can see the grid system here, and then you can see there is the links that is used. You can use drop down as you wish as well. You can put a button and drop down, and you put footer. So basically what we learned today, I want you to apply on one web page. Okay. I already give you the files in the slides. You can download and refer to them, and try to apply it using your own creativity. So what I'm showing you right now is just an example of to use it, on how to apply it. Okay. So I will give you about 50 minutes, 45 to 50 minutes. Play around with it. If you don't understand, you can ask. You can put in the chat box if any problem. All right. So good luck. Is everyone finished? Has anybody finished the task yet? Anybody wants to share what they did so far? Rubin, what have you done so far?
Not done yet, sir.
Sir, can I share mine?
Yeah, sure, share.
So, um, so this is my example.
Okay. Have you tried to put in the sticky bar?
Which one?
The sticky nav bar?
At where? Here.
Your navigation bar, the sticky one,
Here.
the example I showed you.
Oh, I think I didn't.
Uh,
Okay, okay. Thank you.
okay, anybody else wants to share? Anything new that you put in on the website? Mei Fang, what have you done so far? Alright, no problem. Hani Sumaira, can you show me your work?
Wait, sir. Hmm. This one, sir, I have problem to put it at the center and also the space.
Apa yang kat center yang tak boleh?
Yang ni,
Yang tu.
macam
Okay. Masalahnya grade si dapat kah?
grid. Oh, oh, lupa pula grid.
Okay, ini pastikan yang contoh saya bagi tu boleh check website dia, tengok dia punya code, cara buat grid. Sebab hari ni kami semua belajar pasal grid ni. Kalau aplikasi grid ni penting juga sebab nak cantikkan website. Kalau tengokkan semua macam ni, boleh, tapi aplikasi apa untuk?
Oh, okay.
Okay, tak apa, Mas ya.
Thank you, sir.
Nur Saifuddin. Nur Saifuddin, tolong kongsikan skrin. Okay, tak guna grid system eh? Okay, tak apa. Nur Hidayati Miza, tolong kongsikan skrin. Nur Hidayati Miza. Dah siap ke? Okay, Beverly, can you show me your screen?
Belum siap, sir.
Mark the cell. Lim Yu King. Lim Yu King, can you show me your screen, please? Never mind. Show me what you've done so far. All right. Since time is about to finish as well, hopefully that everyone practice the work. I will end the recording for today, and hopefully you guys revise back what we've done so far.